Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the Synth Summit Show, and I think it's episode 8, but I'm not totally sure, so I may have to correct that in the title later on. But the important part is that we have some awesome guests this week. So we're going to start it off with introducing Paul. We've got Paul Soulsby here, and Paul, what is it? Is it Soulsby Synthesizers or is it Soulsby Electronics? What is it?
It's Soulsby Synthesizers is the full title.
Yeah,
So I
and you
always
could
end
go
up calling
right to that website, right to the soulsbysynths.com, and I recommend people do that while they're watching the show because we're going to talk about a lot of the different products that Paul has on here. We've also got Upright on the show with us from modularbeatsmith.com. What do you got on that site, Bryce?
Just covering, things that interest me in the modular world. I'm doing a lot of this. Well, I'm trying to get a lot of the disting stuff up, the modes, the changing algorithms. I want to get all of the documentation up for disting. So for those that have it, they can go to my site and just kind of look at everything in one area. It simplifies things for me. But as I come across things that interest me in different modules, patching, different things like that, it'll go up on my site.
Nice, nice. So and that's got you're going to be covering all the new update stuff from disting.
Yeah, I'll be covering that stuff. I'll be doing some reviews as well as a lot of modular music. Stuff from yourself, stuff from other people. There'll be a page dedicated to that as well. So
Very cool. Yeah, so kind of like a hub for modular music and
exactly.
and
Yep.
information.
Pretty much. Yes. Yes, sir.
We've also got with us, we've got William McKnight of SonicExpansion.com. Willie, any news on your front? What's new in your world?
We got a couple of expansions due out in March. We'll have a couple of drum kits coming. We still have the tutorials over at Machine Master. So if you want to check out the reactor tutorials that we're doing inside of Machine, head on over to Machine Masters and look for the reactor tutorials we're doing.
Nice, nice. And you just, as of like today, as of like 2 minutes ago, just put together a new modular rack yourself, right?
Yeah, pretty much, as you can see, I have things hanging out, so I'm taking out all of my other ones. I'm getting rid of the dresser made one, and I actually, hold on, I just made one. So,
Oh, you better be careful, and things are sliding.
oh yeah, I haven't voted that one in yet. We've moved that. But
Yeah,
yeah, so I
be
just
careful.
actually did that one. So,
That's looking good. That's looking good, Willie.
oh, thanks,
Really
thanks.
So basically, what we're gonna do today is because we have Paul on, and he's far away from us, man. He's on the other side of the pond. So we're gonna talk a lot about Soulsby tonight because I've been kind of following some of the stuff that they've done. I haven't had any of their gear in my studio, but I've got some friends who have like the AT Megatron. And you just released the what is it? The Auditron?
Yeah, it's the Auditron Special Edition, which is basically like a normal at Megatron, but it's kind of preloaded with the new Auditron software, and it's got custom paintwork that's in the Auditron style. It also comes bundled with all the things you need to sort of do all the conversion to drum machines and things that it can do. So you've got kind of 4 synthesizers straight out of the box with no additional purchasing or anything.
Can you give us a little bit of a rundown? So there's the AT Megatron, and that's a is it Arduino or like what? Because I know it's open source, but can you tell us a little bit about what the AT Megatron is from from the top down?
Yeah, so the original is, and well, it still is. It's still Arduino compatible, and you can do all your uploading and downloading, and you can do everything you want potentially in the Arduino environment. And the very original app Megatron was written entirely, literally, I coded it in the Arduino environment, and I since this year that since last year rather, I've been rewriting it all to improve it, because although the Arduino environment's fantastic, there's ways that slow it down, and it's sometimes better to speak more directly to the processor. So you'd find with the old original software, you'd find that if the sound got too complicated, like the controls started to become less responsive. But using the new libraries, it's always responsive, and there's numerous things like that I've improved. But ultimately, I'm going to make it Arduino compatible, and people can hack it in the Arduino environment. And inside is a processor, an Atmega 328P microcontroller, and that is what is the Arduino Uno, basically. Arduino Uno is one of those, plus a few little extra bits put on.
I just wanted to ask you a real quick question, Paul. Originally, when I've always called it the Atmegatron, so I guess it's the AT Megatron. Is that the correct pronunciation?
Bizarrely, in my mind, because initially when I was developing it, it was just a word written down.
Okay.
And I always called it At Megatron, and I still do call it the At Megatron. But people who know the processor call it the AT Megatron, and I'm like, the other thing is, you can see actually online there, I've always written it in capitals. It's always been a capitalized thing.
Right.
Again, if the processor is capital A, capital T, mega, whereas I now, when I have to write it in mixed case, I always go capital A, then little t, little letters onwards.
Okay, gotcha.
Ruin their branding in the process, simply because in my mind I'd always said at Megatron, and I kind of went with that. I say at Megatron, but at the same time I don't ever say, if anyone says AT Megatron, which is people who know the processor, and I never say stop. Don't say it like that, because they kind of ride as well. One of those sort of compromises. But I think at Megatron it's more catchy, and people who don't know about the processor, usually they hear the Megatron side of it and they go, oh well, that's, what is it, a transformer or something? Technically that Megatron, but either's fine.
Yeah, I was now I have to go back and I'll have to watch the show because I don't know which way I was calling it, but regardless, the thing that I was kind of wondering about on here, so basically the synthesis design of the main mode for that is single oscillator, and then fairly typical synth design, but you've got lots of different waveforms, 15 filter types on here, a normalized mode, you got phaser, bit crusher with a bunch of different presets, distortion. This was all coded from scratch, or how did that come about?
All coded from scratch in the Arduino environment originally, and that people who are familiar with that know that there's no autocomplete. It's literally like if you've got Microsoft Notepad and you're typing into that. That's the sort of level we're at. There's no intelligence to it at all. So it took a long time to do that original version. But yeah, the spec of the synth, weirdly, in hindsight, that it felt like I was doing a very normal synth at the time. But in fact, the normal At Megatron software is actually very sort of weird, and I'll go on to explain why. The Auditron is actually more how a traditional soft synth, any kind of digital modeling of an analog synth, that is more how that would work. The original At Megatron, the way that software works is a bit quirky in that you've got all these waveforms, but it's only ever working, instead of taking an audio output of some oscillators and passing it through a filter and then passing it through an envelope, your traditional analog synthesis chain, it's actually always, it's just taking one 32 sample waveform and applying lots of effects to them. So you're filtering that 32 samples, and then you're applying an amplitude to it, which is controlled by an envelope. So actually, you can think of it more of basically churning out wavetables. It's really just an oscillator. You could see it almost as a digital oscillator that's got lots of effects being applied to it that make it look as though it's a full-blown synthesizer.
But I mean, you still have like envelopes and whatnot on it as well. So I mean, you still have the traditional voice architecture going on, right?
Exactly, but rather than you've got the envelopes there, but rather than it's particularly the filter is the key one. A traditional synthesizer, you would take all your oscillators, you'd mix them, and then you'd pass the entire mix through a filter. This is taking just 32 samples at one time and filtering just 32 samples, and then next time round it will filter them again, and then it will filter them again. And that's what creates that kind of the very bright, aggressive tone that it's got. And that's why the Auditron sounds so different. It sounds rounder and more like an analog synth.
So can you give me a little bit of information about the difference with the Auditron and how you came about that name? And because I would assume that it has something to do with the the ARP Odyssey, and so can you kind of give us a little bit of backstory on that as well? Also, just to give people an understanding, if I break up in my voice or whatever, just understand I am sick. So I'm trying to mute it, but if I cough in your ears, I'm sorry. But yeah, just give us a little bit of background as far as how the Auditron part of it came about, because I know that you have lots of different firmwares for it. Basically, like you've got drum machines and different things, but the Auditron seems to be more fleshed out, right?
Yeah, the Auditron's like the biggest one to date. So like I did a drum machine, but I actually wrote most of the drum machine in a day. It's a very simple 16-step, 16-sound drum machine. And then the wave cycler, that was again, just a couple of days. The delay machine was a bit longer, that was a couple of weeks. But the Auditron has been months of work to get that sounding how I want it to sound, and absolutely squeezing every last little bit out of this tiny little 8-bit processor. And you're right, yeah, it is based on an ARP Odyssey. It's not written in any literature anywhere. I got this massive fear that if I write the word Odyssey, that'll be it. The lawyers will be round. So it's obviously with the color scheme and everything, it's based on the ARP Odyssey. In written matters, it's a classic synth.
I wanted to kind of jump in and tell people, for those watching that haven't really heard the At Megatron, our buddy soundsandgear.com on YouTube, that's where I first heard the At Megatron, and it got me really excited. And I believe I contacted you email because at the time they were really hard to get out here. Distributors didn't have them. And his demo actually got me really excited about it. So if you go to YouTube and go type Sounds and Gear, the At Megatron, he's got a really good demo on there if you want to hear it. But that's where I first heard it, and I got super excited. They were hard to find out here. I think the price, it was a little higher when he did the review. To get one would have been like close to $700, I think, for me. So at the time, and I know that the price has come down since then, has it not, Paul? Or?
Yeah. So at that point, I was hand building them.
Okay.
Made entirely in the UK. The price to manufacture was very, very high.
Gotcha.
They made 130 of those, and then I realised there was a demand to keep going, and I just went on an absolute all-out mission to see how much I could lower it by. In terms of UK price, I got £106 off of the total price. It was about $200. I don't know. No, a bit less, 170 maybe. Yeah, that was actually. Apologies to all the retailers that I kept hanging. That really took way longer than I thought. It was nearly, best part of a year it took to get that whole thing in progress. And yeah, so it was a big thing. But yeah, no, the Sounds and Gear review is definitely, that is the ultimate one. If you want to look at the classic at Megatron sound, the audio engine, he has done the most in-depth review to date of it.
Yeah.
Every little parameter has gone into audio demos, everything. So I linked that on my website as well. So you'll be able to find that via Soulsby Synths.
Yeah, Joe is Joe is obviously a good friend of all of ours on the show. So soundsandgear.com tends to do a lot of similar things. But an interesting aspect of that particular review I wanted to tell you a little bit about, because I'm sure Paul probably doesn't even know this, but excuse me. So as I said, Joe is a really good friend of mine, and Joe really doesn't like to review things that he doesn't like, and I know what Joe likes and what he doesn't like, right? And Joe's his characteristics, the things that he likes to listen to and create with, he has a very particular sound, right? And I'll tell you, if I said to him today, if I just walked up to him and I was like, "Hey man, I got this 8-bit synthesizer, you're gonna love it," he would look at me dead in the face, he'd suck his teeth just a little bit, and then he would say, "Flux, that's for you, that's not for me," right? And then he'd just be like, "Come on, man," and walk away. But what was interesting is, I remember when he got the AT Megatron. I'm still going to call it that just because I think that's what... I remember when he got it, and I was asking him about it because I was really interested, and I was like, what do you think about it, this and that? And he was like, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this one. It's not really my normal bag, blah, blah, blah. He tends to be a little bit more traditional with the things that he likes. And I'll tell you what, after about a week, he was just like, man, this thing's really cool. Like,
Yeah.
the fact that you could change the firmware completely, the fact that you could make it whatever you wanted it to be, the controls of it. Like, he was kind of raving to me about it, and it was really funny because I didn't expect that. Like, I fully expected it to be a thing where it was really niche, and I expected him to kind of fall away from it, and then me to kind of be like, "Oh, I love it. You're crazy." Like, we have arguments about this kind of stuff all the time. But I was really impressed. Like, when he came out and said that he really liked it,
Yeah.
then I knew that there was something special there. Like, that's not, it's not like a normal, like, Wiggler or whatever saying that they like it. When someone like that, like, he's a much more accessible type of person, you know what I mean? So when he said he liked it, I was like, wow, that's kind of saying something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I realised because I looked at some of the other reviews and I was like, oh, how's this going to sit? Because he's doing a lot of Akai stuff, and
Right.
maybe he's not going to like it, but I was so thrilled that he did. It was, and such an in-depth review as well, incredible. Really, still my favourite to date. Actually, that just goes through absolutely everything. But yeah.
So can you just kind of so we've got the Auditron is the latest thing, really, right? But you also have this little mini version of it as well. Can you explain that a little bit and what that is?
Yeah, mini. Where is it? Oh, it's over there. So, I don't know how to put the PCB. This is in its box. This is the mini, and this is actually a kit.
Is that the box that you can buy now? Because I had actually somebody ask me today when I was sharing. I was kind of sharing the post around earlier this morning when we finally decided on the time of the show. But I shared the link around, and a couple of people had hit me up, and they said, "Oh, I didn't even know I could get a case for it," and they got really excited about that.
I was actually just looking just yesterday. I realised that I have done the worst PR in the universe for this case. If I should fire myself over the PR, you can barely find it on the web store, and I haven't done any real announcements at all. So I'm going to do some proper links on the website to this. But yeah, this is the official case. It's laser cut acrylic, sort of black top and bottom with you can.
Can you hold it a little bit higher? Your lower thirds is blocking it. There we go.
Just that. So you can see that the controls are kind of.
Oh, nice, nice.
And then yeah, it's the actual synth itself. Let's see if we can see inside. So I don't know if you can see. There's a top layer and a bottom layer. The bottom layer is the Arduino, and the top layer is the PCB that you build. And then.
Would you say that's something that someone entry level they could do it, like a beginner?
Bryce is asking because he has not done any kits yet, and I keep pushing him. I'm like, dude, you got to do some synth DIY. It's too much fun. I know it seems like it's got a barrier to entry, but it's not that bad. So he's looking for a kit to get into. What level is this thing at?
Most of this is very simple. There's one component that needs a really steady hand, and that's these are basically multicolor LEDs. Should get USB cable so I can plug it in. Anyway, I'll do that in a minute. So you need a really fine tip on your soldering iron, and then you just. I mean, it's not that difficult, but I do say it's worth sort of having a bit of practice first. The majority of the PCB is very simple though. So, and the thing is, the LEDs come last. So if you feel confident by the time you get to the LEDs, you'll be fine. So yeah, it's a pretty simple one. And then I do a lot of these trade shows where they have DIY sessions, and you see how complicated some of the Eurorack assembly is, and you think, oh, this is nothing. In theory, it shouldn't take you more than an hour. It can be done in half an hour. It's the quickest today, an hour maximum, really. So it is. Apart from this one component where you just, the main thing with it is just to make sure you've got a soldering iron with a point on the tip, not a chisel end tip. That's the main thing.
Gotcha.
As long as you got that, then you'll be fine. And just do tiny dabs of solder. But it's just that one component. Apart from that, it's really very easy.
Hey Paul, I got to be honest with you. I'm on your site and I'm trying to show people that like a nicer picture of the case. You were not kidding. You did a horrible job with that. I'm trying to to go to the buy page for that case.
Yeah.
It does not exist.
Yeah, it's there's no picture of it on the store. I don't think there's a picture of it on the website.
I'm trying to help you out here. So listen, people, it does exist. Here's what I'm gonna say. If I was looking to buy this case right now, I would probably email Soulsby until they get this fixed, because as of right now, I'm looking all over the site and I myself am not seeing it. So I don't know if you have it hidden somewhere else.
You can get it via the web store if you go to Miniac Megatron and then pick case only, or you pick the one you want, but there's no picture of it on the web store.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I see it.
So what you actually have to do, let me clarify that, because I'm on it now. You actually have to go to the buy. You have to click the buy button, and then there's a drop-down menu, and you can click case. That's how you have to do it. So you have to actually go to it's not on the product screens anywhere. You have to go to the actual buy menu.
It's like in eMagic Logic with all the velocity things, where it's a little invisible area. It's a little invisible area, and if you click and hold and drag up and down, suddenly it becomes something.
Okay, so I'm going to showing people right now where it's actually at. So you gotta, if you want the case, you go to the buy, you scroll down, mini AT Megatron here, at Megatron, whatever you want to call it, make yourself happy. And then down here, you go to case, You click case, and then you can get a case. But there's no picture, nothing. So, but be aware it exists. Can you tell me a little bit about what the differences between the mini and the full size are? Because I noticed that the mini has, I think, like 1 or 2 less knobs or something.
So it's so essentially what I've done is when I first developed this, I basically thought I can put the whole thing in it because they're both the same microcontroller. But the reality is that you soon realise that interface is everything, and the full-out Megatron has a very big, expansive interface. It allows you to access a lot of parameters very quickly, whereas this has multicolor LEDs and only a few buttons. So I've kind of reduced the parameters a bit. So whereas the full-out Megatron has full ADSR envelopes, I've just taken, there's just one parameter for preset envelope shapes. There's no shift mode. The shift mode on the full-out Megatron allows you to go between 2 banks of 16 waveforms in, that every parameter has 2 modes. This doesn't have that, so every parameter has got the 1 mode, so you've just got 16 waveforms. Probably the biggest difference is the fact that this has an inbuilt little sequence player, whereas the Megatron has an arpeggiator, which is kind of the key difference. This is more of a portable device, more for noodling around. Actually, if you go to my SoundCloud, which I think in demos, I think it is, you'll see that in December I did a different mini Amp Megatron sound every day, and that was done entirely within the box, no MIDI, no external stuff whatsoever. It was just done within this, and within 5 minutes, two or 3 minutes every time. So I did. I think basically what I'm saying is that this has the inbuilt sequencer player, and is great for just mucking about with. Whereas the full-out Megatron, it has the arpeggiator, has full envelope control, 32 waveforms. It has a lot more features, and that's simply because of the interface, not the processor. Just the interface is the reason for that.
Yeah, I kind of figured there would be a little bit of compromises or changes or whatever. Now, one small question that I personally have about it is, obviously it's smaller, so the audio input-output is different. Is there a different op amp used there? Is the quality different there? Is there like a higher noise floor on the Mini, that kind of thing?
The full-out Megatron has a much higher quality op amp, and it has proper. It has the proper circuitry to get the output proper line level. So you've got better quality components, you've got better quality op amp, and you've got proper gain control to give you, just like you would with a sound card or anything out, the proper output. I take shortcuts because this was all about price, getting it down to £29, $39.
That's an insane price point. Like, that doesn't even make sense to me.
It was actually insane. When I came up with that pricing, now I'm like, what were you thinking? But anyway, it's done. It's happened, and that's what it is. And it can't. And yeah, to get it to that price, I had to skimp on a few things like op amp quality, the way I do the biasing of the audio, things like that.
I hope you still make some sort of profit out of that. Like, that seems to be like a common issue I see with some of these like kind of small products and whatnot that come out, is a lot of these manufacturers, they're almost in a race to the bottom to get the price so low, which is understandable to a point. But at another point, I'm like, dude, you gotta eat. Like seriously, like that price point to me is like, dude, like by the time the parts are paid for, by the time all the work is going into it, making any sort of manual or documentation, website, all that kind of stuff gets dealt with. It's like, dude, you're lucky if you can buy a burger. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it is. The theory behind it is the pricing for this could work, I think my issue is the distribution. I'd need them to be flying off the shelves.
Sure,
Uh,
and that's kind of the point of why I'm doing this is because not and this isn't just you. This is like a lot of these guys that are doing these really like kind of smaller shop, cool, very interesting products that Roland's not making something like this. Yamaha's not making something like this. This is interesting stuff that you're not going to get from everybody else. But you guys don't have the same marketing budget for that kind of stuff, and or the same kind of connections. That's why I'm kind of trying to do this, is so that I can kind of let people know about, because I want more of this stuff. I think this stuff is awesome, and people, this stuff deserves to be heard. This stuff deserves to be played with every bit as much as something like a Roland System 1, which gets advertised all over the place. But whereas you have something kind of similar, if you really think about it, for not even like a quarter of the price. It's like, dude, like, people need to be aware of this stuff,
Yeah, it is kind of it can be quite tricky that, like, Roland could just bring out anything. They could bring out a biro, and the PR just off the back of the biro, oh my God, the Roland biro, I've got to get one of those.
When is the Soulsby electric tambourine coming out?
That is what I need. That's not what the world needs, is an
electric triangle.
Yeah,
Do not steal Delptronics, because they already have the electric cowbell. So I'll be interviewing them about that later. So.
Okay, well, I'll work on the tambourine in the meantime. We'll see.
I have a question. Okay, so since I'm not very, I have no soldering skills. So I guess for me, I guess at this point I'm kind of looking forward to the Eurorack stuff. I don't know if you wanted to talk about any of that stuff, but
yeah,
that's what I was about to lead into. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just on the SoundCloud page listening to some of the mini at Megatron, and I'm like, man, this thing sounds incredible. I would love to have one, but I mean, I'm kind of thinking I can't really build anything, so I'm looking to the next the next thing. So for me, that's going to be one of the modules.
And CV control, of course.
And
there you go. Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, let me see if I can lift this up without destroying.
No, I did cover this. I did cover it's called the Ossitron, okay? And this is your rack module that's coming from Soulsby. And if you head to YouTube, type in NAMM 2016 Soulsby, and you'll see I did a video with this. And hold on, keep holding it there. Let me bring this up. So you've got two of them in there. And
yeah.
I gotta say, like, this was actually one of the cooler things that I saw at NAMM.
Yep.
One of the more silly reasons why I think it's so cool is I love the wood that holds the overlay on. I love the idea of you can put different overlays on this thing. So as you update the firmware, you can put, different little. What are they made of? What are those templates made of?
They're like a vinyl, sort of vinyl.
So it's like a vinyl overlay, and you can just lay it on there, and then you put the wood piece on there, so you screw it down so it holds it nice and tight, makes it look sexy, and it totally tells you what your new functionality is. I love that so much.
So how difficult will it be to update the firmware? So if you want to change out the firmware, how what's that process like? You can tell us a little bit about that.
Literally what I've been doing all today and the last couple of days actually is, so up till now you've had to jump through quite a few hoops to do the process, and it's not impossible, and anyone, it's fine. You download Arduino, you download the driver for the cable. You need a specific cable, which I sell, and you can get them on Amazon if you don't want to get them through me. You can get them through electronic stores. You download Arduino, you download my software, and then you click upload. Lots of people have been doing it fine, but what I've been working on the last few days is what I've been calling the Easy Uploader, and that will be literally 2 buttons and a selection box. But button 1, select a file off my website. button. The drop-down box will be to select your cable. It's the one thing I can't automatically select the cable. You need to manually select that for a drop-down box, but it should be straightforward. And button 3, upload. So we're talking a 3-button process.
So can I just, I'm just going to quickly show this real quick. So this is Arduino. Let me share my screen here. This is Arduino. This is the Orgon accumulator, and basically the way that you would update the Orgon accumulator DIY project. Same idea. Now the Orgon has, they've got like a little USB thing on there, but I mean, I'm guessing it's like a JTAG or like a pin connector that you're doing or whatever.
Basically,
all you do is you hit one, you load it in, you hit one button, then you hit the next to upload it, and that's pretty much it, right?
That's right, and I mean that was always the plan, was just to do it that way. But I think that there's too many variables, and this new easy uploader actually skips a lot. So by using Arduino, you're actually compiling the software on your computer. Completely unnecessary, because I know it works. I've got the working software. So the plan is that you'll just get one file, which is called a hex file, which is basically the image of the chip. If you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like you get an ISO image for a CD or something like that, it's the image of the chip. Yeah, all you're doing with this new upload software will be selecting that image and clicking upload. Simple as that.
That's pretty straightforward.
And I'm hoping that will be ready within the next week or two. It's been a bit of an ordeal creating it, but I'm nearly there. It's getting there. It's nearly finished.
So when does the Oscillotron ship? When are you releasing it?
Did Willie actually talk?
I listen a lot so I can get enough information. What are we talking about there when shipping, though? Because it has a lot of things in it that I might actually want to.
So we are looking at shipping in April or May, I think is my current plan.
Okay, that's good.
It's at a stage where, so I took it to NAMM, did all the NAMM, and got a huge list of things I want to change, which I will be doing ready for Super Booth. Now, my suspicion is that I'll do Super Booth and have another iteration. If I don't need another iteration, then we're talking May time. But if I do, then it might be a bit later. So I don't know. In all the online stuff, I said April, May. I want to reserve the right to release it in June, July, just in case there's another iteration required.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
What can you tell everybody was some of the actual features or modes that are off in it, just in case they haven't checked out Ken's NAMM video?
So you have, I don't know what resolution this will come up on my rubbish webcam, but you've kind of got the two. How's that? You've got the two function and value rotary encoders that you on the normal app Megatron. Plus you've got CV inputs down there along with knobs to do an offset as well. Then you've got various other audio in and out there. I'll go into that now. So on its most basic level, it's an oscillator with the wavetables of the app Megatron. But it can do a lot more than that now because it's got an audio input. So whereas the other one, the original app Megatron had 32 sample wavetables. So it would be whatever your sound, it would be 32 samples going round and round with processing and various things like that. Now you can change the resolution of the entire engine, and it's more than just the wavetable that's changing resolution. It's the filter that's changing resolution. The entire signal path is changing resolution. So it can be 16, so that's really crunchy. 32, classic app Megatron. 64 and 128. And by the time you get up to 128, it's starting to sound a little bit warmer, a little bit more smoother sounding.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the key things will be the ability to change the resolution. Obviously, it has the bicord filter algorithms of the classic app Megatron, so that's 15 different filter types. So resonant.
Now, hold on. Before we
Oh.
go any further, I got the view on Willie right now, just because I like watching him when he hears about 15 different filter types. Anybody who watches this show knows that Willie is a little bit of a filter, psychotic freak. I can see him drool just a little bit.
Yeah, these filter algorithms are sort of, they've all got different characteristics. I think the key thing that makes it unique is that a traditional digital filter would have a huge amount of headroom, mainly for resonance.
Yeah.
When you resonate a waveform, it can become twice, 3 times as high an amplitude. The Megatron doesn't do that. If you put a base square wave is maximum amplitude.
So you're getting like a distortion clipping effect as well.
If you resonate it any amount, it will start to clip. And that creates these crazy vocal formant sounds, just not intentionally, just by process, just by the sound.
Now, the vocoder stuff that you showed me at NAMM, is that present in the module as well? And by the way, you need to refill your whiskey.
I know. That was the last drop.
Oh, that's why I keep mine right here.
Anyway, yeah. Actually, so the vocoder stuff, that's only in the Ossitron. It doesn't exist on the Megatron, but it's not a vocoder at all. It just sounds like a vocoder. What it's actually doing, we've got this wavetable oscillator playing back wavetables through the biquad filter that does all these crazy filter algorithms. What the input is doing is taking audio input and looking for wave cycles, so looking for a cycle of it going high and low, realizing it's got, and that could be a microphone, that could be any audio input, anything going into it. It realizes it's got a full waveform, and then it'll output it. It'll output that waveform. So if you're going into it, you'll basically output it. It will then output a vocal format. So as soon as it's
that's crazy.
It'll output that vocal format. Now, the way it sounds like a vocoder is when you set it into what I call continuous mode. Whereas basically, as soon as it's got a waveform, it starts capturing the next one, and then it captures another one, and then another one. So as soon as it's captured a wave cycle, it captures another one. So it's essentially a real-time effect. And the reason it sounds like a vocoder is every time it captures one, it stretches it to a given pitch given by the CV input, pitch input. And it just sounds a bit like a vocoder, but it's not a single part of it is actually a vocoder at all.
Now, can I ask some questions that these are just things that I would instantly do if I had it in my rack, which I'm hoping to. Running like drums and things through that. Can you pitch drums and do all that sort of stuff with it?
Yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had drums. It was
like the very first thing that I can think of is I'm like, okay, well, I'm throwing the amen break through it and let's hear what it does. That's like the de facto. Let's see what it does.
I mean, drums actually sound quite good because it's you have such a range of frequency in a drum loop. That it kind of, you get a bit of the character of the drum loop, but it is all very pitched. So,
very nice.
Drum loop,
nice.
We go bom dong dong bugga dong 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 dugga dong dong.
Oh man, yeah.
I
I look forward to hearing some of those demos up on your site on the SoundCloud page.
Is it almost kind of similar to like a resonator, or is it just because you're taking an oscillator and stretching it? Like, I mean, that's kind of like the only thing that I'm really relating that to.
Again, yeah, it does sound a little bit like that, but it is just the nature of the process that it's taking the input, and every time it captures one wave cycle, it stretches it to a pitch and outputs it. But it just really sounds a little bit like a resonance. It's just giving a pitch to something that's not pitched. Now, the key thing is that there's little harmonics and things that won't get captured by it because they're the frequency's too high. There's this thing this threshold of minimum length. So if you had just a tiny little hi-hats, some very fast little frequencies, they'd get through, and that's why drum loops sound so good, is because they get through the process unaffected, whereas the most mid-range and low notes don't get affected.
Wow.
So would you say like is there basically like beat per minute like areas that you're finding sweet spots so far, or like have you experimented with that?
What things have I put through? So obviously, I've put some drums through, and it varies a lot. It sounds good when it's something compressed. If it's too
Dynamic. Yeah.
too dynamic, it's not so good. It works well with intense sound. Very full beat. The other thing I stuck through was an a cappella mix of "We Are the Champion," Queen, "We Are the Champions."
Ha!
That was incredible. That was really good. I wish I'd recorded it. I'll have to do it again, because it took Freddie Mercury's vocal, and it's obviously going all up and down, and just flattened it to one note. The whole down to one note.
I'd like to see like like Bryce is a guitarist. I'm a I'm a punk guitarist, so let's not call me a guitarist. But so I'd like to see some other instruments and things like that going through it as well. I could see that being really cool, or even sending your synthesizers through it and that kind of thing, just to see how it alters that tone. I'm noticing that behind you you've got a rack of synths as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what you keep in the studio and what you have fun with? Just to kind of get a little bit better idea as far as who you are in your own creative space.
So I don't know how much of this you'll see, but you can see on top is a Pro 1, original Pro 1. And I got that about, I don't know, about 8 years ago now, I think. Amazing price off a colleague, and who was like clearing out his loft, and said,
that's what we call a come up.
Yeah. I was pretty lucky, and I've used that so much. I mean, that really is one of my all-time favourite synths. I always just suspected it would be, which is why I didn't. It wasn't free. It wasn't free. But it's way below what it's now worth. Yeah. So that's right. Below that is the Ensoniq ESQ1. I don't know if you can. So there's a couple of synths in this rack. Actually, at the moment all you can see is the ESQ1 second down. And if I go down a bit, that's a DX7 Mark II with a floppy drive. I basically had a massive Italo disco phase where I got completely into mid-80s synthesizers. I just loved. When I was in my teens, I hated anything digital. I just wanted analog synths, just all the way analog synths. And then I just had this couple of years where I completely flipped and went, actually, these synths from the mid-80s, where digital was just becoming affordable.
Right.
That was a really interesting period in time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only it's like 3 years, 83 to 86, I'd say, maybe 87. Yeah. And you got the DX7, you got the ESQ. Around. Oh, let's grab this.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Oh.
Drumulator.
Yeah, ooh, man. Now, do you have any custom ROMs for it?
I think I've flashed the so what the Crash. There's 4 chips, yeah, and Crash occupies one of them. I got a feeling it was a ride and I turned it into a Crash, or the Crash got turned into a ride. I just did that one chip, but yeah, I did do that. Did have a go at that, which was interesting.
Yeah, I've talked to a few people who've modded their drumulators, and they have all custom ROMs, and they have the ROM burners and all that, and that to me is it's a space that I tentatively, like, I try to not go to, but I so want to. Like, it's just so dirty and grimy, and like I'm just like, oh, I want that so bad. and it's so going to take up so much space in my setup, and I so don't need it. But at the same time, I'm like, yes, please.
Well, I mean, DigiDesign. That's what how they became who they are. Their first thing they sold were ROMs for drum machines.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were like, oh, now we need an editor. I've got it's a shame I'm not upstairs. I can show you my classic Mac table. If we want to get really nerdy. So I've got a classic Mac media node, I call it.
Now you have, what's that, the second from the bottom there? Is that like a Juno or something? Or
Right, I'm going to go, all right, let's go back to this quickly.
I see colors, and that's, so I'm thinking, like, I can't fully tell from this angle.
That is a Juno 60 with a Pro DCB on top at the end.
Ah, there we are.
Okay.
Now, did you look at the mode machines? I did a video on it at NAMM, but you were not far from there. Did you see the mode machines DX7 programmer that they're doing?
No, I didn't.
96 knobs. Now, he just kind of threw the number out, so I don't know if the number is 100% accurate, but it damn near looked like it. 96 knobs, every single knob for a DX7, all in one programmer.
It's a great idea. What I have, again, it's upstairs, I should have brought some of the stuff downstairs, is an MSX CX5M.
Mm-hmm.
It's an 80s home computer, which I actually grew up with the MSX range, not that particular one, but that sort of got me into it. It's basically a DX9 in a home computer with an editing interface. And the whole FM synthesis went from something that, I mean, that DX7, you can't edit anything on that. I mean, it's like a two-row matrix LCD display.
Yeah, it's bad.
You can't do anything on it.
That's what I was talking to Mode Machines about. I was like, man, look, I really love that digital FM sound. I think it's really interesting, and it does a lot of things that I think still are not fully realized musically yet. You know, I think that there were the presets that were there, and I think people really use that. Then there were like minimal, things that people sound designed with outside of the factory. But for the most part, that FM sound, I mean, FM8 from Native Instruments did a lot for that FM sound, but there's still a ton of territory that has not been covered in FM yet. So like when I saw that programmer, I was like, man, I really kind of want to go back and buy like one of those old FM synthesizers and just get that programmer just to go like balls to the wall with it,
It's a good idea, actually. I mean, it's essentially it's essentially the same as the CX5M computer, which provides a full computerized interface for a DX synth, apart from it's on knobs, which makes it even more tweakable and instant. So it's really, I mean, I'm gonna have to look into that because that sounds really, really good. But the whole FM synthesis is fascinating because it's not only is it just mucking about, it's whole theories, the theory behind creating bell tones, behind string tones. Yeah. They all have algorithms, and to really know what you're doing, I got into it with my CX5M a bit for a few years. I got really into it, but I felt like I really scratched the surface because the CX5M only has half the operators of a full DX7, and then that still, I think the DX8 plugin, it's great because it's so immediate. At the same time, it's that timbre, overall timbre knob, it's kind of like hiding everything that makes it in some ways, but they're good.
Let me ask you a question about, this is kind of getting backwards a little bit, but back to the at Megatron. And notice how I'm switching how I say it every time. So the idea between the two lit knobs, where did that come from?
So what I need to do is I just need to stand on a chair, okay, for a minute. For 10 seconds, okay?
Now, I don't know if you know this, but in America, there is a general perception that people in the UK are shorter than us, and you're really reinforcing that right now.
Yeah, quite short as it is, and I think it's probably right. It's all the sun you guys get. Right, this here.
Whoa!
Look at that.
That there is the original prototype.
Wow.
Now what I realised is I can't show you is the before this, because this evolved over quite some time.
I feel like there's cables falling out the bottom of that.
Oh yeah, it won't close anymore.
Look at that. That's awesome. That's what I want to see.
So that's the original prototype, and I think the idea of the function and value, it's kind of, it's not anything new. I think it's just been overlooked. I think people have been using LCD screens a lot over the last 10, 20 years. I think they've become very reliant on LCD screens actually. But before that, and actually in the era of these mid-80s synths that I got into, was the idea of the function and value. If you the bit 99, do you know, and the moved source.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They're both synths that work around the idea that you pick a function and you assign it a value. Now, I don't think they worked in particularly good ways because the interface.
I hate that. I hate that idea. I'm just gonna let you know now.
I think, yeah, they didn't do it in a particularly good way. But then I was like, well, I basically had something where there was no lights. There was just a big clunky 16-way switch there and a 16-way switch there that would sort of just clunk its way around. And it just developed. I was like, how can this be made better? Oh, you need like LEDs all the way around it. And it just developed bit by bit. So, I mean, that's what it is, really. It's 16 different things, each with its own value. How can you do that in a nice, compact way? That's the way to do it.
And the LED feedback is basically just to kind of give you a quick visual representation without really needing to focus on the diagram on the surface, right? Pretty much.
That was I wanted it to turn on, but it doesn't. Yeah, no, that absolutely is the idea. I didn't want an LCD display. I just really didn't want one. I just wanted something that was immediate and.
Definitely.
I love that. I love the fact that it's more, you know, it's less about staring at a couple of numbers or some hex stuff or whatever. You know, I like the idea of just, you know. Because think of it in a stage situation. If you're in a stage situation and you're using something like that, then a quick look, glance, color, you know what you're doing. You know, I love that. You know.
Yep.
That was always the idea. That was always the idea that it would be like just a glance would give you enough. And I have done gigs with them, and you can go through it and get, you know, adjust. It's the ability to adjust every parameter rather than diving through limitless layers of menus on an LCD screen, which I've got a Roland D110, like late 80s rack, used something called LA Synthesis.
Yeah. I think. Hold on. I was gonna see if I could dig something. I think I have something similar over here, but.
Well, I bought one of those. Actually, the story behind that was I was in a shop, a music shop in Leeds, and they had an RPAX for sale, and they wouldn't knock. I had a budget of 200. The RPAX was 225. The Roland D110 was 175. And they wouldn't come down to 200. I said, look, just 25 quid, come on. And then, out of stubbornness, I wouldn't buy it, and I went and got the Roland D110, which is this horrific thing, just with menus. It's like a nightmare where you just go down and down. There's no like you never end. It's like the menus on the D110, they never end. There's always another layer in the menu. And I didn't take the R packs. I'm like, what a mistake. But anyway, yeah, that was one of my key things, was owning that rack module, and was just like, just don't make it anything like that. Whatever you do, don't make it like that.
That's what you need. I feel like everybody needs an absolute shit workflow to like just completely like shake them to the core and say, never do that. Like, you know? No, I mean there's different companies that do different styles of limited knob per function attributes that work well. Willie and I were, and I'm saying Willie because like he hasn't talked very much, so I like to try to pull him into conversations. But so I actually bought my Prophet 12 module from Willie, who had it, and he got rid of it not because of the functionality, but because he really wanted to go 100% modular, and which I fully endorse. But I really wanted, I really wanted that interesting sound of the P12, and I was one of the detractors when they first came out, and they were like, oh, we don't need that many knobs and this, and I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you need knobs,
Yeah.
And I'll say that they almost got it. They almost got it 100% right. Like, to me, the Prophet 12 module is like this close to being great because it has knobs per area. And then it has the 4 macro knobs on it. Let me grab.
So to go between different kind of layers, if you will. Ken?
Yeah. So you've got like each little individual section or a button. You hit a button, and then it makes these knobs over here become whatever you want them to be, and it tells you and all that. But the cool thing is that they were smart enough to at least give you these potentiometers for the filter, although they still use very low resolution on the filter, so it still steps, so it's kind of like asinine regardless. Yes, I will bring it up every show until I see them come out with a synth that doesn't do that.
No, hey, no, seriously, the menu on that thing is annoying. I don't care what nobody says, that thing is completely annoying. And I was one of the ones that was supporting it when it first came out. I was like, nah, they don't need the knob. No, you need the knobs. You need every last knob of the Prophet 12 keyboard, because that module sucks. I'm sorry. And I love Dave Smith. I've had several of his keyboards. I've sold every last one of them. But I'm just saying, you need the knobs for that Prophet 12. And I might get some backlash from this, I don't care. But that module, no, sucks.
So my point was this, though, is that that whole layout where you can kind of decide what's on there, and then you could say like, okay, a knob for function of that entire area or whatever, like kind of like the Moog Source, where it's like, okay, well, you select an area and then you have one knob for that. One knob is a little too few, maybe 2 or 3 is great, at least 2, because you got 2 hands, but and then some of us like to get funky and put 2 fingers in between and do weird stuff, but my point being
that's kind of how the Pro 12 is. Like you have four oscillate or 4 voices. So
you're talking about the Pro 2?
I'm sorry. Yeah, Pro 2.
Okay.
For each voice, you just press the button. It has all the knobs for that voice, every single knob that you would need. So basically, you just would change between the voices. So it's kind of like
my only, to me, aside from filter resolution knob, that's my only real gripe. But aside from that, the only thing that I felt like they left off of that is I feel like everything should have a dedicated set of ADSR knobs. Like, you should always, like, to me, envelopes are extremely important because they can quickly take you from plucky sounds to pad sounds to percussion to lead sounds to bass sounds. Like, that's the only thing to me on it that really struck me as like, well, I really wish they would have done this because then I could have done that. Other than that, like, I think I think that's what's great about different user interfaces is that, you know, so between that and, hold on, let me grab it. Hold on, let me grab it. So between that and something much cheaper, this guy, you know, so when you're using this, it's like everything is right there, and I can, you know, I can quickly grab my envelopes and whatnot, which, by the way, if you're complaining about the clicking of the mini log, you're a fool. Okay? I'm telling you now, it's silly to complain about that. All you do is
What's the
raise
clicking?
in the
What's
attack
clicking?
by 15% and you're fine. But no, like to me, it's like envelopes to me are every bit as important as filters. You
Hold
know?
up, hold up, hold up. How come it's still Pro 6 module, Pro 8, the Prophet 8 module, all the knobs, and then on the Prophet 12 you decide to give how many knobs?
Well, those
Really?
listen, hold on. The Prophet 12 came before those two modules, and you
Not the
can't
Prophet
tell me
8.
that they
Prophet
didn't
8
hear
was
all the people complaining that there wasn't enough knobs on
yeah,
that
it
module.
was. And like I said, I was one of the ones that was saying no, it's enough knobs. But having owned the thing, no, you need more knobs.
Now you look at that Pro 1. Look at that Pro 1 behind Paul. How many knobs are on that? There's plenty of knobs there, right?
That's what I'm saying, man. It's like all the rest of his synths had a good amount of knobs, and you what is it on there? 8, 12 knobs at most.
Well, on
As
the 12,
powerful as that synthesizer is, how many knobs does it have on it?
12 total.
12 total.
Yeah.
Does it have dedicated? Does it have dedicated?
Does it
What
have
was that, Paul?
29 on the Pro 1. I
See?
think.
See?
Oh, really? That's what I'm talking about. Like, really, they could have done a little bit more with the Prophet 12, and it probably would have never ended up in Ken's hands from me. I would have kept the thing if it would have
No,
had better
no, no,
control.
no, no,
No,
no.
seriously, I like the Prophet 12 is a great synth. No lie, like it is extremely powerful. I did like it, but the
It's got a great
immediacy
sound.
of it's got a great sound. The
Right.
immediacy of programming my modular versus programming the Prophet 12 module is night and day.
I'll
Yeah,
be
yeah,
honest
yeah.
with
Absolutely
you.
night and day.
I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you. So I've got the Sub Fatty, which I also bought off of Willie, but I've got the Sub Fatty, and so he had the Sub Fatty and the Sub 37, both of which he sold. But my point being is like I had the Sub Fatty, and I debated on whether or not I wanted to sell it to get the Sub 37, right? But then I decided no, because I actually really like the simplicity of the design of the Sub Fatty. Like there's something special about how small it is, and that everything that I want is really right there. And I'm a moron because I say that, but at the same time I have a dedicated Beat Step Pro from Arturia that's got all the hidden functionality is on there, and I put little label maker labels on it that, you know, so like if I want to change wave mod destination, I have it here. If I want to change filter poles, I just touch a pad. So I can do most of what the Sub 37 can do. But my point is that, like, you know, that's doing it right. Plus, they got the really high resolution filter knob and all that, so that's fine. But
Mm.
when you start stripping away functionality, that's when people start getting antsy. And I considered selling this to get a full keyboard. You know, and
Yeah.
I'm like, and I
Mm-hmm.
kept telling myself over and over, I so don't need the full keyboard. I can do what I need to do with this thing. But I was like, yo, but I really want that hands-on feel, you know?
Exactly.
And
Now,
what's
Paul,
the.
with all that being said,
Yeah.
how many compromises do you feel you had to make to get the AT Megatron into such a small case? Because it is in a very small footprint now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can. So yeah, that's the Auditron, but I mean, same case, same size. I think the key thing is that I've got these row of knobs here,
Mm-hmm.
and they're always doing the most important functions. You've got 6, and they will always be doing the essentials. So filter cutoff will always be on one. Resonance, just the really important things are always there. But then the idea is that the 16-way function knob does the less slightly secondary ones. So it was really tough, and it's taken a lot of playing about with. And there's all sorts of thoughts. I mean, this is still the first proper product I've done. Rossitron will be next. I've crammed as much as I can onto that tiny little area. But there's all sorts of things that are, when I'm thinking about future products, like you've got the sub-fatty there. It's got a really big filter knob, but I mean, underneath that it's just a regular potentiometer or rotary encoder. I don't know which it is. Yeah. I guess it will be potentiometer if it's a analog.
Did you struggle really hard with how you were going to do the layout, or did it come pretty natural to you? Like, how did that feel?
Well, I mean, I didn't want to take up a lot of space with it.
Yeah.
But looking at the filter knob and the sub-fatty, it's absolutely gigantic. I could have had one of those on every single knob on my synth, or one of them. And it's something I've learned is sort of an important thing. And when I do the next iteration of products, I'm looking at changing those. And I don't know whether it will be a size thing or just a look or what it will be. But one thing I've learned is the importance of the rotary encoders, potentiometers, and the knobs on top of them. It's an absolutely major thing. Whereas I think this was more of a functional thing, where it was just like what makes it so I can use it. What's the important things for me? I didn't overthink the knobs. It was more what do they look like, not
sure
what they feel like. It was just like, do they take up too much space, not enough space?
So what kind of feedback have you gotten from the community, like after releasing the at Megatron? I'm trying to say it the way that you do. So, I think my mind still wants to go AT, but regardless. So what kind of was the feedback when you first released it, and what about it surprised you?
I think well, I was obviously very happy that it was mainly good. But as I said, the suddenly this focus on the knobs and the feel of them and everything was like, oh, I didn't even think about that when I was designing it. It was just purely functional, purely, what is the most functional way of doing it.
Work.
And the original 130, because they're built in the UK, you've got a lot less variation of stock than if you've got in the States, or if you're in China, you can just get any component. They'll make it. If they don't have it, they'll make it. And the bass boost, this is an analog bass boost here. That needed to be a 1K pot. But I couldn't get. You get various different types of pots, and it's a big thing on muffler wigglers is the feel of these things. And people say, oh, why is this one wobbly? Why is it not wobbly? There's three kind of basic types. You've got your basic pot, which is just a plastic shaft with a knob on top. Then you get ones that are called that have a metal collar around them. That's what this uses. It's the ones with metal collars. I can't take it apart. And then you've got the ones with what's called bushing, which is like which is a screw-down nut, which goes down from the top and holds the whole thing rigid in place. That will be what that mode's got on it. Far more expensive, and the time to build it, if you think about it, you've got to have someone there screwing nuts down onto every single potentiometer. Very expensive.
Yeah.
Well, I went with the middle ground. Apart from the bass boost, where I couldn't get one with the metal collar, I could only get the basic unit. And everyone said, oh, it's really wobbly. And I never even thought about that. Never considered it. And I want to hasten to add that all units from the main set now have the collar, because someone said it's wobbly. And I suddenly realised the importance of things like that.
It's always the little things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that was an absolute crucial thing, was to make sure that all the potentiometers have the metal collar on.
So one last question before we really kind of wrap everything up, that I wanted to know is, and I suspect that there's a bit of change, but what is the relationship between the Oscillotron oscillator and the standalone boxes as far as when you're upgrading firmware, are you going to be developing for both? Will one work in the other? Like, how does that all work?
So yeah, when I created this second batch that I've been talking about, the main batch that are out at the moment after the 130 that I built myself, I created this new type of arrangement of the software that was less based on Arduino and more based on C++. And the idea is that I can keep the hardware and the software separate. They're two like islands. You've got the hardware interface and you've got the software, the audio engine, and then you've got kind of stitching to stitch them together. So here I've got the Auditron interface plus the Auditron software and some code to stitch it together. So if I wanted to change it to being a drum machine, the code for the interface would stay the same, but then the audio engine would turn into a drum machine, and then you just write the bit that stitched the two together. The idea behind this is that I can now take the drum machine and apply it to the Mini. Just using the Mini interface, all I'm doing is doing the code that stitches the drum machine to the Mini. Same again with the Oscillotron, same idea. I got the interface for the Oscillotron and the code for the drum machine. I'm not having to. It's not like this juggling act of having to update all three to do all the different things. It's just one process each time. It's one audio engine that can be applied to any product. So that's the idea. That's the plan.
Okay.
And it's slowly happening, but I need to, later this year. This is probably the scoop from all this. There will be the Auditron a version of the Auditron will come out for this.
Oh, nice.
About summer this June, July. We're talking. There'll be the Auditron will come out for this, and that will be amazing.
Nice.
But I won't be writing it from scratch. I'll just be using
Porting it.
Exactly. So that's the relationship. Is that they're actually all very, very close. They're the same microcontroller. The thing that is different is the actual audio engines. The audio engines and the interfaces, basically. They've all got different interfaces, but they've all got and take the same audio engines, range of audio engines, if you see what I'm saying. Oh no, I said that terribly, but you get the idea. They're two separate things. The interface and the audio engine are separate, and then you can do any combination of them. Is the idea.
Well, I'll be honest with you. There's a lot more that I could dive into here because there's a lot more that I want to know. But we're gonna start bringing the show to a close because it's been a decent amount of time. So with that being said, I definitely want to hopefully invite you back for another show as you get closer to the Oscillotron release. And in the meantime, I would highly recommend people check out both the at Megatron Mini with the case that you have to search for because Easter's coming. So you might as well start get used to like searching for things now. You know what I mean? So think of it as an Easter egg. Like if you get an at Megatron Mini with the case, you just won over all those little brats that are searching out for Easter eggs. Like, I already found mine. So definitely check that out. That's really cool. The Auditron just released, and it's got the overlay. If you already have an at Megatron, you can get the overlay for it, right? For the Auditron, put that on there. Or if you want to have an original at Megatron, you can get that and then put the Auditron. You can buy the Auditron overlay and update that way as well.
Yeah.
And I believe you can buy the regular at Megatron overlay also, right?
Well, the regular at Megatron. So the Auditron.
If I buy the Auditron and I want the original, what do I got to do?
Comes bundled with the at Megatron overlay.
Ooh, nice, very nice.
So yeah, it comes with the at Megatron, the Delayatron, and the at Megatron overlays. 3 overlays. Plus the fact it's preloaded with the Auditron. So that's
the Delayatron, that's like a strict delay module?
It's it's basically what I call a delay sync. There's no audio in on the hardware. So what it basically is doing is it's got wavetables, and they're different wavetables to any of the other versions. It's you taking a 8-bit delay loop, just like a tape delay, but in 8-bit, and then applying it to a synth sound, and then you can drive that delay beyond 100% into, I think it's 200% feedback. So you can create
So it
these.
self-oscillates.
So yeah, you can create these crazy standing self-oscillating sounds, and it's just good for science. There's basically lots of parameters that make it good for sound effects. That's what I'd say. Science fiction-y kind of, Doctor Who style sound effects. That's what that one's good for doing.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's something that I haven't really seen. Like most of the things that I see that will go past 100% for delay are usually like 125, 150, but not usually 200. Like that's a whole nother level.
Well, it's 200 in 8-bit with no real. I don't think there's any. Oh no, there's two modes. There's one that just clips straight away, so the thing doesn't have any headroom. So you can just create these crazy, like, continuous morphing 8-bit distortion sounds. I haven't got a synth with it on at the moment. I'd love. I think there's demos on the website, but you can do some really interesting stuff with it. It's one of my favourites. Apart from the Electron.
Very cool. Okay, so again, I just want to recap. There is the at Megatron, right? There's the Auditron, which is limited edition. Both of which will run the same software, do the same thing, but there's lots of different levels of sexy that you can go. And then there's the mini at Megatron, and you get the case. The case is only €13, which in the US is like, $1 million. I don't know. Our rates are always changing. So anyway, no, it's probably like 15.
Probably like 17, 18 bucks. Yeah, something
somewhere
like
around
that.
there. Let's not get specific. Yeah. So, and then sometime like this summer, I think you said was Ossitron.
Yeah, absolute summer at the absolute latest.
And you're trying to get that in the hands of pretty much all the regular distributors. So like Perfect Circuit Audio, Analog Haven, Control Voltage, Foxtone, Memi Antenna, those types of people.
And yeah. Did you mention the price? Did you mention the price on Ossitron?
Yeah, that will be so.
Why don't you run down the price on all of them? Do you want me to pull up the website real quick?
Yeah, I know. The main app Megatron is £199, which is roughly $299. Although, since I launched, as you said, the exchange rates you just can't keep a track of it. It's impossible.
Yeah, really.
Anyway, the advertised prices are £199, $299 or euros, and then the Mini is £29 or $39 or euros. Then the Ossitron will be, the plan is for that to be the same price as the app Megatron. So
nice.
£199,
$299.
That's a really good price, to be honest.
That is.
I mean, that's a really competitive price point.
That's awesome. That's a really good price.
And it should have quite a nice bit of functionality with it as well, with the audio in and everything.
I think it's also worth noting that you are not a sleeper. I've noticed that since the at Megatron first came out, you kind of like you're. This is your hobby. This is your passion. So you tend to keep putting stuff out. Whether promised or not. Like I do notice that you tend to keep on developing the situation. So
I always think that's the kind of deal, especially with the first run where the Megatron was a little bit more. It was £305, $500 kind of range. That I felt part of the deal would be that I'd keep developing software, and I have. I've stuck to that, and there's quite a few versions. 5 or 6, 7 maybe now. Software versions, and that will keep growing. There's going to be a really interesting one later this year for the app Megatron. I won't say too much, apart from it doesn't make a sound. The thing won't
Ooh.
make a single sound.
Ooh.
Uh,
Oh.
it
That
will,
sounds interesting.
yeah, it's going to be kind of a. Uh,
Basically, what he's saying is he's creating a paperweight firmware.
one thing I really
Basically,
want to
it
do.
bricks your at Megatron.
But, I keep thinking I must do a computer game for it that you can play on the synth, like Pong between the rotaries or something. I don't know. But yeah, no, this one later this year it will be a MIDI processing unit. It won't make any sound whatsoever. So that will be later this year. And that is there's the Polytron, the polyphonic engine, that will come soon as well. The list is kind of endless, and people
Well, hopefully you're not letting too much slip too early.
yeah. No, the Polytron. So I did a beta version of the app Polytron earlier this like 2013. I did it, and I've just had people ask. There's just been things holding me back. I wanted to do the delay. There's always been something I wanted to get out first, but this really is going to happen next. There'll be a polyphonic version. But I hasten to add, it's not just a Megatron or an Auditron in polyphonic mode. It will be a different sound again, completely different sound. It will be a paraphonic engine.
Well, all right. Well, listen. Here's what I'll do. I'll give you an open invite, and everybody here, can see that anytime Paul wants to come on, he has an open invite. I had a really great time talking to you, and I think that the people out here are going to be really interested to see where this all goes and to see where the open source aspect of it is. Do you post the code up so that if people want to tweak it or do whatever they want to do to it, can do that? Or
yeah, all open source. There's the GitHub GitHub/Soulsby Synths. I think I put the source code all on web. Yeah, it must be. Yeah, because you can download it. Yeah, it's all on the website too. And people have. There's a thing called the Nerd Synth coming out. Well, I don't know when yet, but that uses an Megatron audio engine. And there's another one by Electro. I don't know what they called it though. But again, a variation on the app Megatron.
and if anybody wants to contact me and tell me that they're updating or putting out like some weird firmware mutation or whatever, please let me know, and we can get on here and we can talk about it and let people know. That's the whole point of this show, is for me to let the masses know what the hell is going on, because there's a lot of, not everybody is on Muff Wigglers every day. And shout out to Mike, by the way, who is one of the nicest people you'll meet. But not everybody's on there all the time, so there's lots of different venues that we need to get this stuff out there and talk to different people and let everybody know what you can, do with all this weirdo gear that we have. So if you're doing open source stuff for mutable instruments, if you're doing open source stuff for Soulsby, if you're doing open source stuff for stuff that you're not allowed to do it for, let me know and we'll put it out there. We'll let people get a hold of it. I want to say thanks again to Paul, because he was nice enough to come on here and kind of open his house to us and let us all inside and see what kind of weird nerdy stuff he's doing. He wears glasses, so he's smart. Buy his stuff. I want to thank Upright for wearing his hat flipped up. He's really holding it down for the bike culture and keeping that 90s vibe alive. Even though his son will tell him how silly he looks, it's good that he's still flipping his hat up and saying BMX for life.
Man.
So I want to thank him for that. Again, visit modularbeatsmith.com. You'll find out about some cool stuff. He just put up an article, I think it was about the Shaxmat Gallop.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Knight's Gallop.
Yeah. So the Knight's Gallop, and then you also got the disting stuff coming, which I'll be honest with you, expert sleepers, if you're out there, I'm still trying to get a disting MK3. I can't get a hold of one. Expert sleepers, please contact me, please. Anyway, Paul Soulsby is at soulsbysynths.com. You can go there. You can get all kinds of awesome stuff. You can find little Easter egg cases if you look hard enough for them. But bottom line is you're going to find really cool synthesizers. And then you've got William McKnight over at sonicexpansion.com. He's creating sounds for you to use in machine, contact, reactor, I mean, all kinds of different stuff. We're doing, luckily I'm paired up with this fool, so we're doing sounds for, what else do we got? We got a concrete drum machine that we did together. We've got lots of different sound packs that we're doing together. Hopefully we have some really, really interesting new sound packs that are coming out, but I'm not going to tell the whole story on that just yet.
Yeah.
But please visit us for the Synth Summit Show episode 9, if that's even what episode we're on. I don't know yet. I have to go back and check it. So, thanks again, guys. Paul, thank you.
No problem. See you later.
All right, peace.